Welcome back to the Thoughtful Advocate podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Keel, and today we're going to be talking about some good environmental news that's happening around the world, some relationship advice. I've always wanted to talk about it, being someone who was an avid watcher for K-dramas. My favorite genre of books is romance and fantasy, so bringing that to real life and share my 2 cents on relationships. I feel like I am the person to talk about it because I've been with my husband John for over 10 years now. And there's always a culture segment with some entertaining things that I found throughout the week. And yeah, one of them is the new Demon Slayer movie, Infinity Castle. And I thought it was a really fun movie. So I'm excited to talk about that and a couple other things that are fall related. So yeah, let's get to it. This is just a quick segment on environmental news updates. If you want a deeper dive, you can listen to my last segment on environmental news. But the environmental lens will make you grin like Luffy when he sees his favorite food, which is like basically pile meat. So yeah, very excited. Let's get to it. This is an environmental win. In New York, heat pumps are now outselling gas furnaces because of New York's All-Electric Buildings Act requiring electric heating and appliances in new buildings, starting in 2026 for mid-rises and 2029 for new construction. It makes New York the first U.S. state to mandate this approach, lowering costs and improving, and that's what I call a gear third punch to fossil fuels. So a city in Netherlands called Hague has passed a law banning public and private advertisements for fossil fuel products and high carbon services. So petroleum cars, flights, and cruise ships. The first in the world to enact a legally binding fossil fuel ad ban. Apparently, it took place January of this year. It excludes political advertising. I'm surprised there was not more pushback. Maybe it's not like in the US or in North America where there is a lot of lobbying. Go Hague, Netherlands. I think that's awesome. So go Hague. If we could ban these kinds of ads, I think that would be a huge win. We see ads every day, and it does influence us to think about what's available out there, and maybe we should buy those things. Scientists recently discovered the Miltenny cottontail rabbit in Mexico is showing incredible resilience. They were thought to be extinct for 120 years, but they're back. So conservation efforts are really working, and Showerford would be so happy to see another species thriving, as long as they're not bullying him. So that's the end of my good news segment. This is what I want to talk about today. Thinking about it for a long time now, and this is something I would like to hear advice on because growing up, I never really did. A lot of the relationships in my life experienced secondhand, whether it be my parents or other people's parents. It's just I would never see a lot of healthy, romantic relationships in my life. So to experience it firsthand is obviously very fulfilling and makes me happy, but I also want to share it with you guys so that you can have a better perspective. I feel like when I watch all these teen shows, of course, they always want to put the most dramatic kind of relationship out there. So it's like enemies getting in a relationship with a bad boy. It is more exciting to watch rather than the normal friends to lovers relationship. I guess this is not as exciting because there's not much drama. I feel like it can really warp young minds' idea of what love is and a healthy relationship. My number one advice for a solid, healthy relationship is to marry your best friend. In season 1 of Bridgerton, Daphne's mom gives her solid advice. Marry your best friend. Whoever you think is your best friend is the best partner for you. And obviously, there has to be some kind of romantic spark. Otherwise, it's hard for it to evolve into a real relationship without that spark. It could be very forcing a relationship. So let's talk about something that could change your life forever. And I'm not just talking about finding the one piece. And it's not just me who sees this. Even science is telling us that what poets have known forever is actually pretty accurate. Marrying your best friend might be the secret to happiness. So grab your lacos and we're going to sail to the sea of love. This is the science behind friendship and romance. When you're with your best friend, your brain releases oxytocin, the same hormone that creates romantic attachment. Friendship literally rewires your brain for deeper connections. Naturally, having your friends around brings down stress in general because your best friend already knows how to calm you down. They know you the best. That's why they're your best friend. So having someone like that versus like in a lot of like romantic books, it's always like the dude is dark and brooding most of the time and never shares his feelings with you. And he's like the new guy in town, very secretive. I think that's part of the appeal, that he's mysterious. But it's just so much better with someone who actually knows you versus some random dude who can be potentially very toxic for you. But teach their own. Research shows couples who are friends first often report higher satisfaction because you choose them before romance was ever in the picture, and it's built on genuine enjoyment, not just attraction. And honestly, you've seen each other at your worst already, so you don't have to put in up this facade that you're perfect. For me, that puts my mind at ease because they already know. And of course, all we ever want is to be loved for who we are. It just makes sense. Now, a lot of this research is basically dating your best friend. Relationships can turn into becoming best friends. I'm best friends with my husband, but I had no idea who he was 10 years ago before coming to Canada. We met on Tinder, and basically, yeah, I was pretty new to Canada. Mental health was all-time low, so I would definitely call it my hoe phase because I was dating a lot, and he was my third date, third time's charms. It was over a span of just 3 months. So the other 2 dates didn't go so well. And so my third date, I found John, and I don't know, there was just something very reassuring about him. I remember on our first date, I could tell he was nervous. That's the first thing. I could tell he was nervous, which honestly was a huge relief for me because the guy I was on a date previously, he was definitely a player. He was so smooth, and not to say that John's smooth, but you just know when a guy is way too experienced and knows all the right things to say, and it's not really about, he wanted something very specific for me. With John, I could tell he was genuine. So I think that's the huge difference. And I think my soul just knew that. We watched a movie called The Chappie and had dinner. I was nervous at first, but when I spoke to him, it felt like talking to a longtime friend. There was romantic attraction as well. I thought he was cute, but even more important for me is that I felt safe. And I felt safe to express myself. I noticed I'd be talking a lot, and my main thing when I talk to people is asking a lot of questions. I asked John a million questions, and I've always done that. I just found myself very comfortable and excited because it was the first time meeting him. We just meshed so well. The way we talked, our dialogue, I could tell that our relationship was going to last because it just felt like talking to your best friend. And obviously there's romance in that. I thought, this is it. I'm not trying to say that you need to marry your best friend of 15 years that you've known since elementary or anything like that. You can still find someone out there that you can become best friends with, because ultimately that's what a relationship should be. It should be you spending the rest of your life, the one you love the most, and your best friend, because they're the ones who should know you the most and know what you like and, is there for you, and vice versa. You do the same for them and offer support, and especially in times where romance is probably at an all-time low. I'm talking about first-hand experience. When you first have a kid, you're honestly just so exhausted. You can't go anywhere, and you're with a newborn to every hour. You have to feed them. When it comes to that, especially having children and high-stress points in your life, you want your best friend to be there for you. It's not just romance anymore, it's that friendship. John is very good at distracting me from any of the negativity that's going on. So let's say I'm really down. John is always very positive. He has so many stories and distracts me if I'm having a bad day. I love talking to him. In fact, I talk to him every day the most. We text every day, even when he's at work. And I think during those first couple of years of dating, we really learn how we fight. And I think that's important because your best friend would know how you deal with conflict. And if you guys mesh well in that area too, because every relationship over long periods of time, we are gonna fight. So you have to figure each other out. So when I'm in fights, I feel like I'm not gonna be understood. I'm gonna get really defensive and put all these walls up, and John really has to work hard to bring them down. So he's usually the first to apologize, which I'm very grateful for. Ultimately, we both end up apologizing, and then we move on. At first, the fights were long, so they could last an hour or two. That honestly, our fights are so resolved so quickly now. I think the fights often happened because of our long distance. Not that we live in other countries or anything like that, but every year we would move further away. Eventually, I was living in King City and he was living in Hamilton. We'd always fought over that. And now that we're living together, we can get annoyed each other about taking care of the baby and stuff like that. The fights are pretty short. We know how to resolve things now. And I need a hug when we're fighting or if I'm feeling bad. Because of those early years experiences, we know each other so well and what we need during that time. It's not a huge learning curve for basic communication, as friendships often form around similar interests and values. John and I have a lot of overlapping interests. We have separate interests of our own, which is really good because you need that separation in your life. So, for example, John and I love movies. Before our son, we would be at the movie theater every month, sometimes 2 to 3 times a month. He would go more than I would go because he would watch a movie again that he's seen me with his friends. Honestly, they should sponsor him. There was this host, his last name was Chen. That's all I remember. And I was like, you should do his job because you're so charismatic and love movies. But they discontinued that role. I heard he got paid in like free scene points, which is weird not to get paid monetarily, but I don't know if that's completely true. It was just something that I heard. But John loves movies, so that could have worked out. So we both love movies. There are certain genres that he likes that I don't. For example, like Pineapple Express, those kind of movies I don't like. I think that's the only genre where we like skew off. He likes those kind of movies and they make very particular jokes. I think they're very catered to men, so I don't relate to those. But movies that we do overlap in is Christopher Nolan movies. We love Christopher Nolan movies. We went to a concert because Christopher Nolan features a lot of Hans Zimmer's music. We went to a concert that was an orchestra playing top songs, and it was truly amazing because those the music would literally take you back to the scene or that moment in that movie and really make you feel so alive. Whether it's like Dune, Inception, Wonder Woman, Interstellar, truly amazing. So John and I have a deep appreciation for music and movies. So we love talking about movies and just watching them. So yeah, I would say that genre is John loves time travel movies. I would say that genre is probably science fiction, thriller, action, definitely. They usually have a lot of deep thinking. It's not really grounded in reality. There is some type of science fiction, and I love that. There's always a deeper message. For example, in Interstellar, when the dad went into space and watched all of those videos from his kids growing up so fast, he watched it in one shot. The communication didn't come until later. And I was bawling my eyes out, especially now having a son, thinking about missing your child's life. It already goes by so fast. So to miss that in general is just heartbreaking to me. I think in his situation, the dad was trying to choose between saving the world and his children, and ultimately he chose saving the world, which is very noble. But if I love anime, I got him into One Piece. Oh, and that's when he bought this hat. It was at EB Games or something. They were doing a collab with EB Games for the official One Piece hat for the Netflix movie. He just wanted something to remember One Piece by. So it's really fun to watch someone and he enjoys it as much as I do, which is really exciting. We even do cosplays together. We love going to Fan Expo, dressing up and having a good time, like walking through and seeing things. Another thing we have in common is that we don't like buying knickknacks and stuff. He collects Pokemon cards, but not too crazily. And I think that helps because finances are a big issue in a lot of relationships. And I think that's our only main big expense is really food. So I don't buy clothes or shoes or anything else. So yeah, food is definitely a big one. But yeah, I would say we have a lot of common. He showed me like the experience of going to the drive-in movie theater, which is really fun, especially in the summer when it's warm and nice. You can walk around at night, be with your family, and just be outside. We used to play video games a lot together, League and Fortnite and all those. And now not so much, but I do watch him when he plays like The Legend of Zelda, for example, on a Switch, and sometimes we play. I don't even know the name of the game. It's like that it's Super Mario Wonder or something. It's the one where you have to collect stars and you can play with other people and you have to finish this map. Pretty fun. And yeah, there's just so many things we enjoy, like video games, movies, the way we spend, and our interests are very aligned. We have a lot of overlapping interests, which I think is so important because I remember seeing through my family's relationships, the ones that didn't work, did not have a lot of overlapping interests. In fact, they were quite opposite of each other. And I think that works in theory. And I think if you love someone enough, of course, you would want to get to know their hobbies, maybe try to dabble in it too. In general, if you don't have overlapping hobbies, or anything to talk about over time, we'd really start to separate. And I think that's really sad. I think just find someone who shares your common interests and values. John loves to talk conspiracy theories and anything political that he's learned. And we've always had great chats about those. We have a lot of deep talks about things in life, women's rights, presidents, or weird conspiracy theories. I've always had fun talking to John. He's a really great speaker and very enthusiastic. I just love listening to him. Science shows that with your commonality and shared interests and values, it just reduces major life conflicts later because your guys are on the same page and you're literally sailing the same direction. So I think that's important. The bottom line is that if you're already best friends, then they already passed the test. They stuck around when they didn't need to. Even in the hardest of times, you can still do that through newer relationships and build that foundation over time, just like me and John did. So you don't have to marry your best friend, since you can find your best friend too. And I think that's just as exciting. And truly, friendship is the foundation of something beautiful. Okay, so this is time for the culture segment, and I find the segment pretty entertaining. So I hope you do too. If you love anime, fantasy related things, stick around. This week, John and I saw Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. Amazing movie. Anime is very cool. I would not say it's in my top 5 anime, but that's because I feel like the story is kind of lacking. It's pretty generic, but the animation is so crisp, and the animation is very clean. I think it's one of the best animations I've seen in a long time. It just looks beautiful, like cinematically, very clean and very HD. And yeah, when you compare it to One Piece, which I do love One Piece, definitely do see a difference in the animation. And it could be just style and what they do. I'm not trying to demean One Piece. I love the cartoonish feel of it. But yeah, Demon Slayers, it just has a different layer. It's almost more realistic in a sense. I think they probably use more advanced technology. We saw this movie, and basically it takes place after, hopefully you're caught up. So basically it's the first part of the 3-part film, which is basically the conclusion of Demon Slayer. So if you haven't watched Demon Slayer, I would definitely suggest watching it before jumping into the last trilogy of movies. That is literally the ending, the anime. It basically takes place after season 4 of the Hashira training arc. And in the very last episode, which was also beautifully animated, it was basically a fight between Muzin, the Michael Jackson, which is, if you don't know, he's like the top, basically the devil. In my eyes, he controls all the demons. I'm not sure how, but through his blood art or something. And he was fighting with the whole Demon Slayer core. It was a beautiful fight, the way they animated it. So I was very excited for the movie because I was like, wow, they animated it like this. You know, the movie's gonna be crisp. But yeah, this is basically the final showdown where Muzin, Michael Jackson, he traps them in this infinite castle and they're surrounded by thousands of demons. They have to fight the upper ranked demons, which are obviously more powerful than normal demons. They pair up, and I think seeing them fight is so cool. They all have breathing techniques. So there's one with insect breathing and one with water, fire, different elements. It's really cool to see that animated out. I just thought the fight scenes were so good. So if you're looking for something to enjoy in terms of fight scenes, I definitely get caught up in Demon Slayer. There is a movie to get caught up in the 2nd season. It's very fun. They did show a lot of short flashbacks so that people who maybe are not caught up would understand a bit more. And they do a background of the important demons. It is interesting to see that layer to show that the demons have a reason. And I think the takeaway for me is like they were showing that there's really 2 paths. If something terrible happened to you, like your parents died or they got killed or someone in your life killed, you can either do good afterwards and use that motivation to save other people, or you can become a demon yourself and kill for revenge and ultimately just go into this killing frenzy, which a lot of the demons do. It's like a work of art, watching it, the fight scenes and how beautiful it is. So truly satisfying. I think it resonates globally because obviously it's beautiful to watch. And it's really about a brother protecting a younger sister, which I think anyone with siblings can definitely relate to. And never giving up on the people you love, which is basically every shonen out there. And finding strengths in the darkest moments, which is also basically every shonen is the main character, getting beat up into a pulp. And in the last moments, after being beat up a million times and they're like bruised up and bleeding like crazy, they somehow come on top. They find that strength in them to come on top. And I think that's always, for me at least, very satisfying, because no matter how life brings you down or the people in your life, you can always come out on top if you don't give up. And I think that's a very strong message, and I appreciate that message throughout multiple shonens. And it's Luffy, like how Luffy never gives up on his crew, even when they can betray him. So, spoiler, if you haven't seen Whole Cake Island, it's about Sanji and how he's not necessarily betraying them, but in a way it is. He's trying to protect Luffy and his crew from his crazy siblings and father, or these like experiments, and they're very powerful. And yeah, he doesn't want Luffy to die from saving him. Sanji's forced into this marriage between Big Mom for emperors, and Luffy really wants Sanji back. He even went on a hunger strike. Sanji just couldn't take it anymore and came to feed him, and it was just very touchy. So Luffy would literally give up anything for his crew, and I think it just goes to show that like blood is not always the strongest, and you can find your soul family out there. I thought that was very inspiring and gives a lot of hope. And I think just fall and winter, during these times, I love to do a Harry Potter marathon. Harry Potter is definitely like Halloween, Christmas movie, because it's obviously like wizards and magic, and so that's very Halloween-esque, and it can be a little dark, especially as they grow up. It becomes darker and darker. You definitely feel that Halloween vibe, but also the Christmas scenes, which I just love so much. I love that warm feeling and that homey feeling of coming together and getting presents and just being a family. So that is very Christmas. This is my favorite time to watch it, because fall and winter. I will didn't watch the whole thing. I'm on leave, which is about to be cut short soon because I am a sick and baby. So yeah, I'm trying to really taking this time before I go back to work. Yeah, another fall show I love is Gilmore Girls. I watch it every year, and it's just like the bond between the mom and daughter. So beautiful to see that kind of friendship between a mom and their kid. And I've always wanted that growing up. It's such a feel-good show. It also teaches you that you can meet your soul tribe outside of your family. Sometimes friendship conquers all, and I think that's beautiful. Each of these stories reminds me that friendship is the real magic, that connection between two humans standing up for what's right truly matters. It makes me very emotional when that happens, when, like, for example, when everyone teams up. It does make me very emotional because it's that people are fighting for the same cause, and I think in real life, that's very real, like whether that's environmental issues or political issues, is just very real. And I think with fantasy in general, like growing up doesn't mean you lose that wonder and the spark for life. Fantasy, I think, just helps you reimagine the world in a more magical lens, and it can make the world a bit more beautiful. And yeah, I really love stories. So like Demon Slayer and Harry Potter really reminds us that some of the best stories are about love, and that's not just relationships. It can be friendships and people who care about each other, whether that's about Tanjiro protecting Nezuko, or Harry, Ron, and Hermione coming together and becoming the best of friends. They each have their strengths and weaknesses, that they really work off each other. I think these stories show us that we just want people to fight for us, because we would do the same. Okay, so I want to talk about daycare and the reality in Ontario, the good, the bad, waitlisted. This hits close to home for me, especially for people in Ontario. If you don't know the daycare situation, likely because you don't have kids or need to work. I did not know the daycare situation before having children, and it is a little heartbreaking. There is some good news. $10 a day for daycare is being promised. It's a historic program Ontario committed to reducing daycare fees to an average of $10 per day by March 2026. That helps families save more than 50%, like $6,000 per child a year. And it started with the federal provincial agreement in 2022, with the current fee reductions up to $22 per day. If you go to a daycare that is under this government program, you'll see that it's $22 a day, which is really nice, and really less major savings there. So yeah, I think the issue right now is space, because when I look for these programs, it's insane. Some of the wait lists for these daycares that are $22 per day under this program, the wait list is like 3 years. For example, the daycare near my house just It just got built, but I don't understand how it got filled up so fast. The next spot is 2028. By then, my son will be able to go to school already, so there's no point in that. So I think it's ridiculous. I've checked out some other places, and yeah, the wait list, some of them don't even tell you when the next spot is. So they said they'll just call you. So nobody knows. It's up in the air. But a lot of them are wait list is over a year or more, and that's crazy because I did sign up last year. There definitely needs to be more space and more daycares with these programs because that's getting ridiculous at this point. Ontario government has committed to creating 86,000 new licensed childcare spaces. Okay, hopefully within the GTA area because that's where the demand is. But yeah, I do live in the GTA, so that's where I'm speaking from experience. But apparently in Coothera Lakes, children can wait up to 6.4 years for licensed childcare. What? 6? If they're just born, then that's crazy. You might as well sign up now. If you plan on having kids 6 years from now, just sign them up now because that's wild. I don't understand how parents are getting their kids into these childcare programs. The root problem is the staffing crisis, so educator shortage. Some sectors project that Ontario may face a shortfall of 8,500 registered early childhood educators by 2026. There's issues with retention, and yeah, it's really difficult. So in the end, building more spaces does not help if there's no staff. We definitely need more early childhood educators. It can be really tough because probably the toughest time to take care of babies and toddlers because they need so much extra support, changing diapers and feeding so frequently compared to being a teacher in a classroom for middle schoolers because they can take care of themselves and babies can't. It's understandable that not a lot of people want to go into this area or industry. I've already looked at private daycare. They're expensive. We're even looking just for part-time. There was this daycare for almost $100 a day. And that's just for private daycare. So we've been also looking for private nannies in-home, and we could find the same price, or it's comparable. Like it is over that amount, but it's comparable so that it just makes sense to have him in-home. And especially now that I'm going back to work, I definitely ask for accommodations support from home because I had nausea and she's been throwing up. I can actually at least see him, and like in between my lunch and breaks, I can hug him and kiss him and stuff like that. So it's way better than sending him off to who knows where. I'd rather not send him to daycare if I could afford a private nanny full time. So that's just the reality of living in Ontario. And yeah, private daycares can be literally thousands of dollars a month. And so yeah, this is a big issue for families because parents would have to reduce working hours. With a lot of families, they're calculating, is it even worth it for me to go back to work with all these daycare costs? Or is it better that I just quit my job? Especially for the moms. And a lot of families have to rely on the grandparents and family members. Luckily, my mom-in-law comes to see our son pretty often, so it's a lot of help. But she works full-time too, so there's no way she can watch him during work either. And the $10 a day program is generally great news because daycare can be so expensive. But right now, it's like promising everyone a seat at the 1,000 ship when there's only space for 5 people. So we need more ship, more crew, and just better coordination in general. Like for families within Ontario, we don't need them. We don't want to watch our kids just on these wait lists. We need daycare now. As we wrap up today's episode, remember that progress comes in many forms, whether it's cleaner energy, deeper relationships, or community connections. Positive change can happen if we work together. That's all for today. If you like this episode, please leave me a review. We'd really love the support, or subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave me a comment as well. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time. Okay, so today's sponsor is Kind Laundry. Just kidding, they're not really a sponsor, but I do have an affiliate code. Kind Laundry use natural ingredients, and it actually comes in these sheets. So much more useful than liquid laundry detergent because that stuff gets messy. With Kind Laundry, you can bring this anywhere. It's literally in a box, pack in your suitcase, and it's that easy. You can get 10% off by using code ZeroWasteCute.